The silence stretched for centuries, cold, absolute, and unyielding. It was a silence that had swallowed the last echoes of Earth's dying cries, that had consumed the light of 1,000 fallen stars. But in the depths of forgotten space, buried beneath layers of dust and shattered hope, a great warship stirred. The UN's Vindication blinked awake. Alarms screamed sharp and insistent, echoing through the ship's cold corridors like the cries of a long-forgotten god. Red warning lights pulsed through the darkness, slicing shadows where once there had been life and laughter. The ship's AI Vindi came online in a flash of logic and dry humor. "Good morning, Commander. I trust the cryosleep was restorative," it said in a tone equal parts sardonic and efficient. From the cryochamber slid a figure. Commander Adrian Rourke, humanity's last warrior, untouched by time but scarred by war. Her eyes, steel grey and sharp, flickered open, glowing faintly from neural enhancements hidden beneath the scars of battle. She breathed deeply, filling her lungs with recycled air heavy with the scent of dust and machinery. "Vindi," she rasped, voice dry but alive. "Status report. Ship integrity, 87%. Power cores at 63. Weapons systems fully operational after reboot. The galaxy, however, is much changed. The Terran Confederacy is no more. Earth is lost. Humanity presumed extinct." Rourke's jaw tightened. "Presumed, not confirmed. Indeed, you're the last." That last word echoed in her mind like a verdict. The Vindication had been placed in stasis for centuries. Mission halted by the great galactic war that wiped humanity from known space. But now, with a faint distress signal pulsing nearby, the AI had awakened its captain and launched the ship toward a dying beacon on the edge of Valari Dominion space. The Valari, psionic warlords whose fleets had decimated entire colonies without mercy. Rourke's fingers trembled, not with fear, but anticipation. She was the last human warship commander alive, and her war was just beginning. The first sight outside the viewport was a nightmare, a shattered colony burning beneath a cold, blue sun. The Valari fleet hung overhead like vultures, sleek, dark, and deadly. "Vindi," Rourke said, voice low, "give me weapons online. Let's remind the galaxy why humans don't die quietly." The ship hummed to life, ancient Terran warships technology melding with cold, alien machines. Plasma cannons glowed, missile bays sealed tight, and the hull shimmered with reactive armor that few had seen since humanity's fall. Rourke's mind flicked through strategies, guerrilla tactics, orbital bombardment, electronic warfare, all hard-learned lessons from centuries ago. Then came the strike. The Vindication launched forward, shattering the calm with thunderous kinetic rams and plasma bursts. Valari cruisers blinked in surprise, their psionic shields overwhelmed by unexpected precision, targeting main cruiser. Rourke barked in seconds. The Vindication obliterated the lead vessel with a devastating plasma salvo, then spun into the shadow of an asteroid field. Vindi's voice cut through the chaos. "They didn't expect a Terran relic. They'll remember it." Explosions rippled through the enemy fleet as the Vindication used old-school Terran tactics: hit fast, vanish, strike where it hurts most. The Valari scrambled to regroup, but it was too late. On the ship's broadcast channel hacked and cracked by Vindi, the battle unfolded live, with Rourke's clipped commands and the AI's biting commentary turning the engagement into an infamous broadcast. "Firing plasma to their flagship," Vindi quipped, like a slap in the face, only with more fire. The last Valari ship fled in chaos. The colony was saved, for now. But the message was clear. Humanity was back. Rourke stood on the bridge, staring out at the distant stars that had long forgotten her kind. "The galaxy thinks we're dead," she muttered. Vendi replied, "We're just getting started." The aftermath of the battle hung heavy in the cold void. The Valari fleet, once confident and unchallenged, was shattered and reeling, their pride bruised as much as their ships, and the galaxy was watching. Across distant systems, holonets and cum relays scrambled to decode the anomaly. A lone warship, cloaked in ancient Terran tech, tearing through fleets like a tempest. The broadcasts hacked by Vindi spread like wildfire, fragments of Rourke's clipped commands interlaced with the AI's sardonic quips, becoming viral sensation across alien networks. "You've seen the ghosts of a dead empire," Vindi broadcast. "With a digital grin, now watch the ghost haunt you." But while the galaxy gawked, Rourke was already moving. The Vindication slipped silently into the shadow of a derelict asteroid field. Sensors scanned relentlessly. The distress beacon was a trap. Of course it was. No one sent a lone human relic, a genuine plea for help, without expecting a reaction. Vindi. Rourke muttered, eyes narrowing, scanned for hostiles. "Any Valari reinforcements lurking?" 24 ships, all armed and hungry. The AI replied, "Valari are fast, but they lack imagination. I'll prepare a welcome party." As the Vindication drifted closer to the supposed source, Rourke's mind worked like a well-oiled machine, cataloging every possibility, every tactical advantage hidden in the ruined space around her. The Valari weren't just sending hunters, they were sending assassins. Suddenly, the ship's alarms screamed again. A squadron of sleek black fighters darted through the void, laser tracers flaring like deadly fireflies. But the Vindication was ready, with a calm born from centuries of war. Rourke unleashed a counterstrike. Electronic warfare pulses scrambled the enemy fighters' targeting arrays, while stealth drones slipped through enemy lines to plant explosives on vulnerable hulls. "Deploying decoys," Rourke ordered, her voice a razor cutting through the chaos. The decoys exploded with a burst of radiation, blinding enemy sensors. The fighters splintered, chasing phantoms while Vindication slipped through the debris with lethal grace. Vindi's voice was almost gleeful. "Come and get us, little birds. We're not so easy to kill." The first kill came swiftly. A Valari fighter, blinded and confused, slammed into an asteroid. Another followed, crumpling under precise plasma fire. Rourke smiled grimly. The galaxy had underestimated humanity's cunning. Hours later, the battle settled into a tense stalemate. The Vindication had survived the trap, but the Valari would not forget this day. Neither would the other racers listening in. Rourke stood at the bridge's viewport, watching the distant stars flicker. The galaxy was a jungle. Wild and dangerous sand humans had been the apex predators. "Why do you think they fear us?" Vindi asked quietly. Rourke's eyes flashed. "Because we don't just fight. We adapt. We learn. We make the impossible look easy." Vindi projected a hologram of the recent battler, swirling dance of death and precision. "Your tactics were unorthodox. Did you learn from old Earth manuals?" "Not just manuals," Rourke replied. "From every fight I ever survived. From every Terran commander who refused to quit." Just then, a new signal blipped onto the comm. It was faint but unmistakable. Another human transmission, buried deep in encrypted code. Rourke's heart thundered. "Vindi, analyze. Could this be a survivor?" The AI hummed. "Possibly, or a trap. Either way, we find out." the Vindication changed course, slipping through a dense nebula where sensors faltered and ancient mining colonies lay abandoned. There, buried beneath decades of neglect, was a small human outpost, silent but alive inside. The surviving colonists stared wide-eyed as the warship emerged from the mist of space like a spectre. They were ragged, beaten by years of isolation and Valari raids, but the sight of the Vindication ignited something long dormant. "Commander Rourke," their leader whispered, voice cracking with disbelief. "We thought all humans were lost." Rourke's eyes burned with fierce pride. "We're not lost. Not while I'm breathing." The AI's broadcast channels opened again, now relaying images from the outpost, proof that humanity survived in the shadows, still fighting, still resisting. Across the galaxy, oppressed worlds watched and listened. Where there had been despair, hope now flickered. Rourke turned to Vindy. "This is only the beginning. Then let's make sure they never forget the name Vindication," the AI said. A new edge of purpose, sharpening its tone. The galaxy thought it had buried humanity. Instead, it had awoken a storm. The galaxy had taken notice. The broadcasts, hacked and hijacked by Vindy, spread like wildfire across holonets, com arrays, and pirate transmissions alike. The legend of the Vindication, a lone human warship armed with forgotten Terran weapons, and piloted by the last human commander, ignited fear and fascination in equal measure. The Galactic Concord, the sprawling empire that had declared humanity extinct, moved swiftly. The Council of 5 Species convened urgently on their command station, debating how to extinguish this rekindled threat. Fleets from the Valari, the crystalline Siltha, the insectoid Varkans, the shadowy Charis, and the amphibious Star, all readied to hunt down the Vindication. Bounty hunters, mercenaries, and pirate lords were unleashed, each eager for the massive Concord reward for Rourke's capture or death. But the Vindication did not hide. Rourke's eyes burned with a dangerous light as the ship's sensors detected the converging fleets. The corridors thrummed with the low hum of weapons charging, the ship alive with the fury of a beast awakened. "Vindy," Rourke said, voice calm but cold, "patch me into the comms. I want to remind them exactly who they're hunting." The AI chuckled well, as much as a machine could. "Always the showman. Ready when you are. On every open frequency across dozens of star systems." Rourke's voice echoed like a war cry. "This is Commander Adrian Rourke of the UN's Vindication. The Galactic Concord declared humanity extinct. They tried diplomacy, then genocide. Neither worked. Now they will learn what respect means. The blood debt they owe humanity is overdue." The transmissions ended with a brutal messenger. Live feed from a recent ambush where the Vindication had destroyed a Valari frigate in seconds. Across the Concord, chaos erupted. Fleets scrambled, warlords gritted their teeth, and spies whispered. Tales of the human warship that laughed at impossible odds. But Rourke's war was far from mere bravado. She was preparing for a brutal, relentless campaign designed not just to survive, but to destroy those who thought themselves invincible. The first move came from the shadows, using hijacked communications and cyber warfare skills lost to time. Vindy hacked into the Concord's logistics networks, planting false orders, sabotaging supply lines, and turning the Concord's own systems against them. "Logistics is the lifeblood of war," Rourke said, watching the data streams cascade. "In real time, cut it, and the beast starves." Simultaneously, the Vindication launched covert raids on unguarded shipyards and resource depots, crippling Concord forces in unexpected places. One such raid became legend in the orbit of a mineral-rich moon. A fleet of mercenaries awaited the Vindication, confident and hungry for the bounty. Rourke lured them into a narrow asteroid belt, the perfect trap. Set the charges, she ordered. Asteroids erupted like volcanic bombs, tumbling into the fleet with devastating precision. Plasma cannons picked off survivors while Vindi's drones scrambled to dismantle enemy. Electronic warfare, the battlefield, was a brutal ballet of destruction. When the dust settled, not a single mercenary ship remained. The Vindication broadcast the victory with a sarcastic tagline, "Mercenary buffet. Sorry, we're fresh out of leftovers." But the toll was high. Rourke watched as a warning pinged the come. A massive Concorde, armada 5 times the size of any fleet she'd faced, was en route. The Council had finally realized one ship could not be ignored. 5 fleets, Vindy murmured. This is no longer a hunt. It's an execution order. Rourke's jaw tightened. If they want a war, they'll get one. But the galaxy will remember who started it. Her voice hardened, resolute. The battle lines were drawn, and she would stand alone. Asterisk, the Vindications. Sensors screamed warnings. A Concorde fleet, massive and relentless, had trapped them near the volatile Firestorm star system. 5 armadas, dozens of capital ships, thousands of fighters, all bearing down like a hammer to crush the last human warship. Firestorm was a raging inferno of solar storms, ionized gas clouds, and shifting asteroid fields, a dangerous graveyard. No commander wanted to fight in, but Rourke didn't want easy. She wanted impossible. This system, she said, eyes burning with fierce determination, is going to be their tomb. The Vindication slipped into the nebula's heart, plasma, cannons primed whole, shrouded in stealth fields. Vindi's calculations ran at lightning speed, analyzing every crevice, every gravitational eddy, every dead rock that could be weaponized. Commander, the Velari want to crush you. The Siltha want to study you. The others want your head on. A platter, this is a death sentence. Rourke smiled thinly. Then we'll make it a legend. As the first Concorde ships entered Firestorm's orbit, the Vindication unleashed chaos, harnessing ancient Terran mining technology long forgotten. Rourke deployed thousands of small drones into the asteroid belt, turning the rocky wasteland into a living minefield. These drones could detonate with precision, creating cascading explosions that tore through enemy hulls. Velari dreadnoughts surged forward, seeking to trap the Vindication in a brutal pincer. But plasma bursts and kinetic rams tore through their shields, scattering their formation. Activate reactive armor, Rourke commanded, and prepare for electronic countermeasures. Vindy, scramble their sensor arrays. A chorus of alarms flooded enemy ships as their targeting systems failed. Fighters collided. Frigates exploded firestorms. Raging storms masked every move. But the Concorde fleets adapted quickly, heavy. Cruisers unleashed gravity pulses to destabilize the asteroid field, sending massive rocks hurtling toward the Vindication. Rourke's ship shook violently as the first wave crashed against its hull. Brace for impact. She yelled. The ship groaned, but held. With a sudden burst, the Vindication slipped into the eye of the stormer swirling maelstrom of plasma storms and ion flares that crippled enemy sensors. Now, Rourke whispered, we hit hard. The Vindication fired its ancient plasma cannons in sweeping arcs, ripping through vulnerable cruisers. Simultaneously, missile pods launched barrages that pierced enemy shields and detonated deep inside their hulls. On board, the AI projected A hologram of the battle. They're bleeding. The question is, how much can you make them pay? Everything, Rourke replied. But the battle was far from over. From the shadows emerged the Concorde's secret weapana, massive dreadnought bristling with experimental weaponry capable of tearing apart entire fleets. It radiated power, its engines glowing with unnatural energy. Vindi, identify. Classified prototype, codenamed Leviathan. It can obliterate a warship with a single shot. Rourke's heart pounded. Target locked, she said, but it's a kill zone. We can't take a direct hit. The Vindication danced on the edge of annihilation, weaving between plasma storms, dodging devastating energy beams, and striking with surgical precision. The dreadnought's shields cracked under repeated plasma volleys, but it fired back with brutal fury. A missile slammed into the Vindication's starboard engine, rupturing coolant lines. The ship shuddered violently, alarms blaring. We're losing power, the engineering AI warned. Rourke clenched her fists. Damage control teams, now. Vindi, prepare emergency warp sequence. We buy time. The battle reached its crescendo as the Vindication launched a final gambit. Harnessing firestorms, solar storms, the ship's ancient systems overloaded the dreadnought's weapon arrays with a massive electromagnetic pulse. The Leviathan shuddered, its systems frying in a cascade of sparks. With its main weapon offline, the dreadnought became vulnerable. Rourke ordered the final strike. Plasma cannons unleashed a concentrated barrage, ripping the dreadnought apart. In a fiery explosion visible across the star system, the remaining fleets, battered and leaderless, retreated in chaos. On the bridge, Rourke stood tall, sweat and grime streaking her face. We survived, she said softly, not just survived. Vindi replied. We made history, but the price was clear. The Vindication was wounded, systems strained, and supplies running low. And the galaxy's most powerful empire now knew humans were not just alive, they were a threat, and threats were never forgotten. The Vindication limped away from the fiery ruins of the Firestorm system, scars from battle etched deep into its hull. The ship's once pristine metallic surface was now a tapestry of scorch marks and torn armor plates. Inside the corridors, hummed with the low murmur of damage control teams reassembling, repairing, preparing. Commander Adrian Rourke sat alone on the bridge, staring into the swirling nebula outside the viewport. The galaxy was waking up, and not all of its awakenings. Promised hope, Vindi, she said, voice low. What's our status? Hull integrity at 65%. Shields compromised. Power reserves below 40%. Weapon systems functional but degraded, the AI replied. Supplies critical. We cannot sustain a prolonged engagement. Rourke nodded, her mind racing. Survival demanded allies. She needed to find them fast. The Vindication's next jump took them beyond known Concorde space, into the unexplored fringes of the Nebulan Expanser, chaotic sector of uncharted stars, rogue planets, and pirate havens. Why here, Vindi? Asked, skepticism tinging its tone. Because Rourke said, no one else has the guts to come here. But I've heard whispers fragments of old transmissions hinting at survivors, rebels, and exiles. People who might hate the Concorde enough to help us. As the Vindication slipped through the blackness, a flicker on the COM panel caught Rourke's Arger-coded signal, ancient yet unmistakably human. Patch it through, she ordered. Static gave way to a crackling voice. This is Captain. Lysara tore off the celestial marauders. We know who you are, Rourke. The galaxy's finest ghost. We've been waiting. The Celestial Marauders, notorious band of smugglers, freedom fighters, and outlaws, had earned a reputation for toppling tyrants and slipping through the Concorde's fingers like smoke. Rourke's heart quickened. Why reach out now? Because Lasara's voice softened. The Concorde's grip tightens, and they're hunting us all. But together, we can be more than a thorn in their side. We can be a blade. The Vindication altered course toward a hidden asteroid base deep in the expanse, cloaked by thick nebula clouds and electronic jamming fields. Inside, Lysera was waiting tool, fierce and human, but unlike Rourke, her enhancements were subtle, more reliant on instinct and street smarts than military precision. Their first meeting crackled with tension. "You're reckless," Lysara said bluntly. "Someone has to be," Rourke replied, eyes steel. But beneath the edge lay a shared understanding. Both women carried the weight of lost humanity, one a soldier, the other a survivor. Over flickering holomaps and stale air, they planned. "The Concorde controls everything from the core worlds to the mining colonies," Lysara explained. "But their reach fades here. We have contacts, weapons, ships, enough to strike back." Rourke leaned forward. "Then we hit where it hurts. Supply lines, communications, their pride." "Exactly." Lysara's grin was sharp. "You've got fire, Rourke. I like that. But this is a war of shadows. We need more than one warship." Rourke's gaze hardened. "Then let's build a fleet." Over the next weeks, the Vindication became a beacon. Rebels, exiles, and forgotten humans' descendants of lost colonies rallied to the cause. Small ships transformed into a fledgling fleet, patched together. With stolen tech and human ingenuity, Vindy worked tirelessly, hacking Concorde databases, decrypting troop movements, and predicting fleet deployments. But even as alliances formed, threats loomed. The Concorde wasn't idle. A new adversary emerged from the shadows. A ruthless Concorde admiral known only as Carax Cold, methodical and obsessed with wiping out the human resurgence. Carax's fleet was sleek, deadly, and singularly focused on hunting the Vindication. "Commander Rourke," Vindy warned, "Carax's forces are en route. Estimated time to engagement, 72 hours. Rourke stood, eyes blazing. "We won't wait for them to come to us. We'll strike first." Lasara's voice was fierce beside her. "Then let's give them a war they'll never forget." The makeshift fleet assembled in the shadow of a fractured moon, vessels of all shapes and sizes patched together with salvaged tech and raw determination. Rourke stood on the bridge of the Vindication, watching the ragtag armada through the viewport. These weren't just ships, they were a statement. Vindy's status report on Carax's fleet, tracking 9 capital ships, 36 fighters, and multiple support vessels. Estimated jump point in 3 hours. Rourke's jaw tightened. Carax was ruthless and brilliant. He knew Rourke's tactics, studied every broadcast, every maneuver. The hunt wasn't just about destroying one ship, was personal, Lasara, Rourke said, turning to the Celestial Marauder captain, standing beside her. "We hit them before they reach us. I want to cripple their advance fleet." Lysera smirked, fingers tapping a holomap that flickered with enemy positions. "Stealth strike in a sector littered with debris fields and asteroid clusters. Perfect." The Vindication and its fleet slipped through the nebula's veil, the damage systems working overtime to mask their approach. Vindi's drones slipped ahead like ghosts, jamming enemy sensors and sowing confusion. The first volley came suddenly. barrage of plasma and missiles that tore into the lead fighters. But the Vindication danced through the chaos, plasma cannons blazing, drones weaving between explosions. "Target their relays," Rourke ordered. "If we blind them, their coordination collapses." VINDI deployed cyberatic swarms, infiltrating enemy networks and planting disruptive code. Starship coms erupted in static. Orders delayed or lost. Confusion spread like wildfire. Capital ships faltered, hesitant in the maelstrom. Rourke seized the moment. The Vindication launched a missile salvo targeting the enemy's fuel reserves, igniting a chain reaction of explosions. One dreadnought burned with blinding fury, its massive hull breached and collapsing under the relentless assault. But Carax was no fool. His fleet regrouped swiftly, forming a lethal spearhead aimed directly at Rourke's position. "Vindy, evasive maneuvers," she shouted. "Prepare to warp." The Vindication darted through a narrow canyon of asteroids, shield pulses absorbing incoming fire. Fighters swarmed, plasma streams lighting the void. "Warp engines ready," the AI announced. "But Carax's fleet is initiating pursuit." The chase was on. For hours, the Vindication led the Concord Armada on a deadly dance through the nebulan expanse. Rourke's knowledge of ancient Terran space tactics proved invaluable hit-and-run strikes. Ambushes, traps set in asteroid fields. One point, a narrow comet tail offered cover. Rourke plunged the ship into the icy debris cloud. The hailstorm masking their trail, Vindy's voice crackled through the coms. "We lost their sensors. Temporary blind spot. Good," Rourke breathed. "Let's use it." She sent fighter squadrons to flank, striking at supply ships and crippling support vessels. Explosions blossomed like deadly fireworks, but the cost was high. One fighter squadron was lost in a brutal firefight. Lysara's ship barely escaped a crippling hit. On the bridge, tension mounted. "Status," Rourke demanded. "Supplies dwindling. Hull integrity holding, but only just." "Vindy," replied Rourke, clenched her fists. "We can't keep running." Suddenly, a transmission broke through enemy jamming, a distorted but urgent message from one of their hidden bases. "It's a trap," Lysara warned. "Carax knows where we'll go next." Rourke's mind raced. The Vindication was bait, but she refused to be the hunted. "We turn it around, set the stage." In a bold maneuver, the fleet reversed course, retreating into a narrow canyon dense with magnetic fields and unstable debris. Carax's fleet followed blindly. "Ready the drones," Rourke ordered. "Let's show them why humans survive." As the Concord Armada entered the trap, thousands of drones swarmed out, detonating in synchronized bursts that shattered enemy shields and disabled engines. Caught in a deadly crossfire, the Concord ships struggled to maintain formation. Rourke seized control of the battlefield, directing precise strikes on crippled ships, while VINDI's hacking worms spread chaos through enemy systems. The tide turned. Carax's flagship, caught off guard, took critical damage. Now Rourke commanded, "Focus fire. We end this." A final, concentrated plasma barrage tore through the flagship's core. The ship erupted in a blinding nova, scattering debris across the void. Carax's fleet broke, retreating in disarray. The Vindication and its allies emerged battered but victorious. On the bridge, Rourke allowed herself a rare moment of relief. "Vindy," she said softly, "they came for us, but we survived. We fight on." The AI's response was quieter, almost reverent. The galaxy remembers the storm called humanity. The echoes of the shattered Concord flagship still rippled through the communication networks of the 5 Species Council. The once unassailable might of the Galactic Concord had been dealt a stunning blow, and whispers of the human warship the Vindication spread like wildfire through star systems and shadowed alleyways alike. On board the battered bridge of the Vindication, Commander Adrian Rourke watched the stars blur as they prepared for the next jump. The fleet was small, but their spirit unbreakable, Vindy Rourke said. Plot a course to the Terran remnant colonies. We need to rally every last human outpost. Course set, the AI replied. But be advised, those colonies are isolated, under constant Concord surveillance. Then we make them visible, Rourke said, voice resolute. If humanity is to rise, it will be together. As the fleet hurtled toward the forgotten fringes of human space, the Vindication became a similar beacon of defiance and hope. Systems long silent hummed with renewed activity. Transmissions once thought lost echoed again. Rourke sent encrypted messages, reaching out to scattered human enclaves, miners on desolate moons, scientists hiding on barren worlds, rogue pilots. Drifting through the void, one by one, transmissions came back. We hear you, we remember, we fight with you. Among them was Dr. Elias Trausk, a brilliant xenobiologist who had studied the Concord's biological weapons programs in secret. His message was urgent. They're developing a new weapon, Commander, something that could wipe out entire fleets. Rourke's brow furrowed. We can't let that happen. The rendezvous was set at the desolate planet Xerxes IV, a world scarred by ancient wars but rich with resources and hidden caves. Ideal for guerrilla fighters. As the Vindication and its allies entered orbit, sensors detected dozens of small vessels. Approaching human ships, worn but armed, eager to join the fight. Lysara met Rourke on the bridge, eyes shining with fierce pride. They're here. The lost humans, ready to reclaim their place. Rourke smiled, but the weight of command pressed heavily. We're the spark, but the fire will need fuel. The coming days saw the fleet grow smugglers, exiles, former soldiers, and scientists soar, united under a single banner, humanity's resurgence. But the Concorde was far from defeated. Admiral Dax, licking his wounds, dispatched a fleet of assassin stealth frigates and covert operatives tasked with striking at the heart of the rebellion, the Vindication. Rourke anticipated the move. We lure them in, she said. Then we make the battlefield ours. Using Xerxes IVs, labyrinthine cave systems, and ion storms, the fleet set a trap. When the assassins slipped into orbit, the Vindication activated powerful jamming fields, severing their communications, trapped. The enemy ships were ambushed by swarm fighters and hidden missile pods. The cavernous caves amplified their weapons' destructive power, turning the planet itself into a weapon. One by one, the stealth frigates fell, their crews helpless against the sudden onslaught. Yet, in the heat of battle, Rourke received a chilling message. The Concorde was readying a strike fleet vast, overwhelming, and merciless, heading straight for Xerxes IV. We won't last long against that, Lysara warned. Rourke's gaze hardened. Then we fight smarter. We divide their forces. We hit their weak points. Using intelligence gathered by Vindy and Dr. Trask, the fleet targeted Concorde supply depots, repair yards, and communication hubs scattered across the sector. Hit-and-run raids crippled the enemy's logistics, slowing the advance at every turn. Humanity's ragged forces clawed back territory. igniting hope in systems long thought lost. In a decisive engagement near the mining colony of Hades Reach, the Vindication led a coordinated assault, breaking a Concorde blockade and opening a vital supply corridor. As the dust settled, Rourke stood on the bridge, her voice steady. "This is only the beginning." The Concorde thought humanity was extinct. They were wrong. "We are the storm that will reshape the galaxy." The message echoed across rebel channels, igniting uprisings and alliances throughout the stars. Humanity was back, not as pawns, not as ghosts, but as masters of their own destiny. The horizon of space was ablaze with fire and light. The final battle had come. The Vindication, battered but unbroken, stood at the forefront of a massive human-led fleet. Against them loomed the full fury of the Galactic Concorde's armada, seemingly endless sea of warships, bristling with weapons and technological might. Commander Adrian Rourke stood on the bridge, eyes steely, heart steady. Around her, the hum of battle preparation filled the air as every hand on deck readied for the fight to end all fights. "This is our moment," she said quietly, voice carrying the weight of countless lives and untold hope. "Today, we fight not just for survival, but for humanity's future." The Vindication's engines roared, cutting through the void as the fleet surged forward. The Concorde's response was immediate massive energy volleys, missile barrages, and swarms of fighters descended like a storm. But Rourke's fleet was ready. Years of guerrilla warfare, stolen tech, and unbreakable spirit had forged them into a weapon as deadly as any Concorde dreadnought. The battle raged with cosmic fury. The Vindication weaved through firestorms, its plasma cannons carving destruction through enemy hulls. Fighter squadrons danced in deadly choreography, engaging the enemy with a ferocity born of desperation and hope. Amid the chaos, Rourke's voice echoed over comms. "Focus on the Concorde command ship. Without it, their fleet is directionless." VINDI's systems locked onto the massive command vessel. The heart of the Concorde's might, but the Concorde's flagship was no ordinary ship. It was a behemoth, heavily shielded and armed with experimental weaponry capable of annihilating entire sectors. Rourke knew a direct assault would mean death. "We'll need a diversion," she said, eyes flashing with resolve. Lysara's voice crackled through. I'll take the marauders around the flank. Draw their fire." The Vindication powered toward the Concorde flagship's front lines, drawing volleys and shielding allies behind her. Explosions rocked the bridge as plasma and missiles slammed into the hull. Systems flickered, alarms screamed, but the ship held now, Rourke commanded, using ancient Terran technology retrofitted for modern warfare. The Vindication unleashed a concentrated EMP blaster, massive pulse of energy that ripped through the Concorde's shields. For a moment, the flagship was vulnerable. The human fleet surged forward, plasma cannons and missiles striking in perfect harmony. The flagship's hull ruptured, fires blossomed, and its engines sputtered in a final, desperate attempt. The Concorde flagship fired a massive energy beam directed at the Vindication. Rourke's ship trembled as the beam sliced through the void. "Shields holding," VINDI shouted, but only barely. With seconds left, the Vindication launched its last payload of plasma missiles. The missiles struck home, tearing through the flagship's core. The Concorde command ship exploded in a cathedral of fire and debris, its destruction sending shockwaves through the fleet. Without their leader, the Concorde armada faltered. Ships retreated, formations broke, victory was won, but the cost was immense. The Vindication was critically damaged. Systems failing, crew exhausted. Rourke looked around the bridge faces marked with fatigue, hope, and determination. "This ship," she said softly, "is more than metal and circuits. It's our spirit." As rescue fleets arrived, she sent a final message out into the galaxy, to every lost colony, every hidden rebel, every human who dared to dream this is your fight. Our fight. The galaxy will never forget the storm called humanity. The message sparked uprisings, alliances, and a new era one where humanity would no longer be hunted but respected. And so, the legacy of the Vindication endured not just as a warship, but as the symbol of humanity's unyielding will to survive, to fight, and to triumph.